The old man was a giant among men, but a dwarf when compared to giants. He belonged to the kingdom of giants, where he was often bullied due to his small stature. Despite this, he was incredibly hardworking. Every single night, he would visit the mystical land of dreams, where he collected shimmering objects to craft dreams. His workshop was a vibrant place, filled with dreams of every imaginable color. But nightmares were always a deep, unsettling red. Each morning, precisely at 3 a.m., he would visit mankind with a large speaker, calling out to those in need of his help. He'd use a special blue bullet to give a young boy a beautiful, enchanting dream.
I'm always dreaming about you.
Just as she was about to leave, she was spotted by a little girl who quickly rushed back to her bed and covered her head with a quilt. Seeing that her giant status had been discovered, the old man wrapped her up in the quilt and took her away. As soon as she entered the door, the old man started sharpening a kitchen knife, which scared the little girl so much that she tried to run away. She climbed along the tree stumps and headed for the window, and just as she tried to push the window open, she was thrown into a pan by the giant. The girl begged the giant not to eat her, saying, "Please don't eat me. You think I am a giant, but I am a man's dog, and a man's dog and a man's wax man. Please don't eat him." It turns out that the old man is a vegetarian, and he is not at all interested in human flesh. Then he just chopped up the melons by himself. In the course of the conversation, the giant learned that the girl had been raised in an orphanage since her parents died at an early age. Eating a melon, the giant explained to the girl that he had arrested her because he was afraid that she would reveal their mysterious swollen suit. He then held out a bottle of green soft drink, and the girl, curious, went up to look at it and found that the bubbles were downward. And if the upward bubbles caused hiccups, then the downward bubbles would be spared. An even bigger giant approached the door, and he seemed to smell something familiar. He began to search desperately for the girl, and she got into the pumpkin. The giant left after a fruitful search. The girl crawled out of the giant pumpkin and looked at the dirty girl. The old man smiled and gave her a big hand, and the girl walked up to him with an understanding. The old man took her into his workshop, first gave her a cold bath, then dried her in the oven, then took out a small box and emptied it of human clothes. But as soon as they stepped out of the door, they had a problem. At the entrance of the door, there was a group of giants taking their afternoon nap. The old man could only step over them cautiously when an obnoxious crow began to caw, and the old man pinched his beak. The old man squeezed his beak, but just as he tried to get away, a huge hand grabbed him and lifted him into the air. The giants woke up one by one, and the little girl, who was strong and healthy, rushed to hide in a truck a short distance away. In the land of giants, the old man's very low status and his small stature often made him get bullied by these giants. After a few moments of softening up the giants did not have enough to do, and one giant carried the old man to the top of the hill with his head in one arm and a big truck in the other arm, while the giant at the opposite top of the hill was on the foot of 2 automobiles. What a coincidence. The old man and the girl were hiding in one of the cars, and the giant pushed the old man down the hill, followed by the giant on skateboards. Just as they were about to collide, the girl rushed to hit the steering wheel, and the old man's iron bow succeeded in hitting his opponent hard. At that moment, it started to rain, and the giants were afraid of the water swirling around in swirls and swarms. The old man rushed to put the girl into a bag and took her over a big mountain, through a cloud, and finally back to the human world. At last, the old man took the little girl back to an orphanage again. But the little girl didn't want to go back to an orphanage anymore. But she preferred to stay with the old man, so she jumped off the balcony and the old man caught her. The old man forced her to die, so he took her back to the giant kingdom again, but the old man couldn't hide her from her, so she tried to get help from the humans. The helicopter transported the giants across the land, and they ultimately chose to trust the girl. Consequently, the old man arrived at a castle, guided by the girl. A giant approached the castle and sought assistance from its master. The queen welcomed the giant into her palace and prepared a grand feast for him. The old man picked up a large fork and tied some bread with a few eggs, which was a delicacy he had never tasted before. The old man then explained to the queen that all the giants in the land of the giants, except for him, who was a vegetarian, subsisted on human food. He expressed his hope that the queen would dispatch her soldiers to drive them out. To demonstrate his sincerity, the old man marked the location of the giant's land on the map and presented his own special drink, pouring it into cups and distributing it to everyone, including the kowtowed chicken on the ground. They reached the land of the giants, the old man. She kindly asked them to wait while she and her daughter returned to the workplace. To make progress, the old man experienced a terrifying nightmare that made the giants realize it was wrong to eat people. After the nightmare ended, he suddenly remembered he had forgotten the lasalle of his dream in the palace. The girl, who was strong enough, picked up the bottle and rushed towards the giants. Just as she was about to open it, the giants behind her suddenly woke up. The girl hurriedly smashed the bottle, and a few red lights entered the giants' bodies. The giants all felt disturbed at the thought of cannibalism, but only the old man remained determined to continue. As he was about to grab the girl, the old man tried to offer help, but he was no match for him. The helicopters took the giants to a deserted island. Afraid they'd starve, they threw pumpkins and seeds to them. To survive, they had to be vegetarians and couldn't eat humans. In the end, the girl woke up in the palace. The old man was gone. She wasn't sad, knowing a giant old man had been guarding her from the clouds.